Hello, welcome to the tutorial 7. Today we will review both the chapter 9 and chapter 10. Okay, in this chapter 9 about sales and operation planning, these are the 4 contents that we will talk about later. The first one is about responding to predictable variability in the supply chain. So by definition, predictable variability is the change in demand that can be forecasted. There are two causes of the predictable variability of demand. The first one is the seasonal factors. That is the change of demand that happen in the similar patterns of time. So for example, like in the winter season, the demand of jackets might increase, and then the second one is when it is the new semester or back to school period, the stationery demand also might be increased, and then in the Ramadan period, the Muslim outfit demand might be increased. And the second cause is the non-seasonal factors that might cause large predictable increases or declines in sales, for example like the promotion. Then the predictable variability have an effect, for example like high levels of stock outs during peak demand periods, and then the high level of excess inventory during low demand periods, which increase costs and decrease the responsiveness of supply chain. And that's where sales and operation planning take place. So SNOP have the goal to appropriately combine two broad options to handle predictable variability by managed supply using capacity, inventory contracting, and backlogs, and then also by manage demand using short-term price discounts and promotions. And we also need to remember that the company's goal in this predictable variability is to respond in a manner that balances supply with demand to maximize profitability. Okay, the next one is managing supply. So a firm can vary their supply of product by controlling the combination of the following two factors, that are capacity and inventory. In general, companies use a combination of varying capacity and inventory to manage their supply. So the first one is the managing capacity. Firms use a combination of the following 5 approaches to reduce the cost of capacity required to meet their predictable variability of demand. The first one is by give a time flexibility from workforce. So the flexible work hours by the workforce, it can be used to vary capacity with demand. The overtime is varied to match fluctuation in demand. So plants do not operate continuously and are left idle during portions of the day or week. For example, many plants do not run 3 shifts, so the existing workforce could work overtime during peak periods to produce more to meet demand. And the second one is use of seasonal workforce, that is during the peak season, to increase capacity to match demand. In this approach, a base of full-time employees does exist, and more are hired only for the peak season. Example that often use this approach is in the tourism industry. And then the third one is use of dual facilities, that are specialized and flexible facilities. The specialized facilities is to produce a relatively stable output of products over time in an efficient manner. And then the second one is the flexible facilities to produce a widely varying volume and variety of products, but at higher unit cost. And then the third one is use of subcontracting, where firms subcontract peak production so their internal production remains level and can be done cheaply. So it is like the firm is use the external to do their production activity. And then the last one is designing product flexibility into the production process. So firm has flexible production lines whose production rate can easily be varied. So the production is then changed to match the demand. And then the second one is by managing inventory. Firms use a combination of the following two approaches to reduce the level of inventory required to meet predictable variability of demand. The first one is by using common components across multiple products. The total demand of the common components is relatively stable, even though each product displays predictable variability. And then the second one is build inventory of high demand or predictable demand products. That is when most of the product of a firm produce have the same peak demand season. The next one is about managing demand. So supply chain can influence demand by using pricing and other forms of promotion. So when a promotion is offered during a period, that period's demand tends to go up. There are three combination factors that can increase in demand. The first one is market growth, that is the increase in consumption of the product from new or existing customers. In this slide, we use the example of Toyota, where they offers a price promotion on their sedan car, that is Camry. So market growth, in this example, the promotion by the Toyota might attract buyers who considering the purchase of a lower-end model, thus increase the size of the overall family sedan market and increasing the Toyota sales. And then the second one is stealing share, where customers substitute the firm's product for a competitor's product. For example, when Toyota offer a price promotion on the Camry, the buyers who have purchased Honda Accord might shift to the Camry. Thus, the promotion increased Toyota's sales while keeping the overall size of the family sedan market the same. And then the third factor is the forward buying, that is the customers move up future purchases to the present. The promotion doesn't increase Toyota's sales in the long run. In this forward buying factor, and it also leaves the family sedan market the same size. So the first two factors, that is market growth and stealing share, it increased the overall demand for Toyota, whereas the forward buying factor simply just shifts the future demand to the present. So in general, as the fractions of increased demand coming from the forward buying grows, offering the promotion during the peak demand period become less attractive. So the product that was once demanded in the slow period is now demanded in the peak period, making this demand pattern even more costly to serve. These are the four key factors that influencing the timing of a promotion. The first one is the impact of the promotion on demand, cost of holding inventory, cost of changing the level of capacity, and the product margins. So in this table 9.1, we can see the summary of impact on promotion timing. So for example, if a promotion primarily results in the forward buying, it is best to use promotion to readjust the seasonal peak by offering a price discount during the low demand periods. And then another example is if the manufacturer has a high cost of holding inventory or finds it expensive to change production levels, it is best to offering a promotion during a low demand periods. And then the third one is if a promotion results in significant increase in sales by attracting new buyers, it may be better to offer a price discount during the peak period. So when many buyers are in the market for the product, the increased cost of production because of the higher peak demand is likely to be offset by margin obtained from the new buyers. Then the next one is about implementing SNOP in practice. The first one is coordinate planning across enterprises in the supply chain. So the entire chain must work toward the same goal or one goal of maximizing profitability. However, in reality, it is difficult for an entire supply chain to agree on how to maximize profitability. And then in this approach, incentives play a large role in this. For example, within a company, the sales often has incentives based on revenue, whereas operations has incentives based on cost. And then the second one is take predictable variability into account when making strategic decisions. So the level of profitability is greatly affected by predictable variability, and the success or failure of strategic decisions can be determined by it. So the predictable variability has a tremendous impact on the operations of a company. However, the predictable variability is not always taken into account when strategic plans are made. For example, when we want to decide what type of products to offer, whether or not to build new facilities, and what sort of pricing structure a company should have. And then the third one is ensure that senior leadership owns the SNOP process. It is to bring different functions and organizations together in a supply chain. So the SNOP process owner is like the conductor of an orchestra. And then the last one is ensure that SNOP process modifies plans as the reality or the forecast changes. So the planners need to alert the supply chain regarding the old plan and provide a new plan that accounts for these changes. The next one is chapter 10, the coordination in a supply chain, and these are the four contents that we will review later. And the first one is about lack of supply chain coordination and the bullwhip effect. So supply chain coordination improves if all stages of the chain take actions that align and increase total supply chain surplus. Today, mostly supply chains consist of stages with different owners. So the lack of supply chain coordination may cause the what's called bullwhip effect. That is, the fluctuations in orders increase as they move up the supply chain from retailers to wholesalers to manufacturers and to suppliers. So as we can see here in the figure, from customer to retailer, the fluctuations of order is relatively small, and then when we move up from the retailer to distributor, the fluctuations is more higher, and then when we move up from distributor to manufacturer, the fluctuation is even more higher, and then from the manufacturer to the supplier also it is become more higher. That is the bullwhip effect. And then this is the effect on performance of lack of coordination, as you can see in the table 10.1. For example, in the inventory cost, due to the lack of coordination, the inventory cost may be increased because to handle the increased variability in demand, the firm must carry a higher level of inventory. That's why the inventory cost may be increased. And then another example is the replenishment lead time. The increased variability as a result of the bullwhip effect makes scheduling at firms and supplier plants much more difficult than when the demand is level or stagnant. And then another example is the level of product availability may be decreased due to the lack of coordination because the large fluctuations in order makes it harder for firm to supply all distributor and retailers orders at on time. And these are the obstacles to coordination in a supply chain. That is any factor that leads to information delay, distortion, and variability within the supply chain. The first one is the incentive obstacles that occurs in situations when incentives offered to different stages or participants in the supply chain lead to actions that increase variability and reduce the total supply chain profits. The incentives obstacle is like the first one is local optimization within functions or stages of a supply chain. For example, managers at a retailer make all their purchasing and inventory decisions just to maximize their profits, not the total supply chain profits. Then the second one is the sales force incentives. That is, the sales typically measured by manufacturer are the quantity sold to distributors or retailers, not the quantity sold to the final customers. And then the second one is information processing obstacles that's occur when demand on information is distorted as it moves between different stages of the supply chain. It is like the first one is forecasting based on orders and not customer demand, and the second one is because of lack of information sharing between supply chain stages. Then the third one is operational obstacles that occurs when actions taken in the course of placing and filling orders lead to the increase in variability. Can be caused of ordering in large lots, large replenishment lead times, and rationing and shortage gaming. And then the fourth one is the pricing obstacles that arise when the pricing policies for a product lead to an increase in variability of orders placed. Can be caused of lot size based quantity discount and the price fluctuations. And then the last one is the behavioral obstacles, that is the problems in learning within organizations that related to the supply chain structure and the communications among different stages in the supply chain. So for example, as you can see here in the slide, where each stage of supply chain feels it is action locally without see the impact of the actions on other stages. And then the second one is different stages in the supply chain react to the current local situations, then try to identify the root causes. And then the third one is where the different stages in the supply chain blame one another for the fluctuations, and then they become the enemies rather than partners. And then the fourth one is no stage of the supply chain learns from its actions over time. And then the fifth one is the lack of trust among supply chain partners. Okay, next is about managerial levels to achieve coordination. That is the actions a manager can take to help overcome the obstacles and achieve coordination in the supply chain. The first one is by aligning goals and incentives. That is by aligning goals across the supply chain, aligning incentives across functions, pricing for the coordination, and alternating sales force incentives from sell-in to sell-through. So sell-in is the quantity sold from manufacturer to distributor or retailers, where the sell-through is the quantity sold to the final customers. And then the second one is by improving information visibility and accuracy. That is by sharing customer demand data, implementing collaborative forecasting and planning, and designing single-stage control of replenishment. And then the third one is improving operational performance. That is by reducing replenishment lead time. So, by reducing replenishment lead time, the firm allows the multiple orders to be placed to adjust with the actual demand. Then the second one is by reducing lot size. And then the third one is by rationing based on past sales and sharing information to limit gaming. And then the fourth one is by designing pricing strategies to stabilize orders. That is by moving from lot size based to the volume based quantity discounts. And then the second one is by stabilizing pricing. And then the last level is by building strategic partnerships and trust. Because in the supply chain coordination, trust and partnership becomes more important to ensure that the coordination is going well. Okay, that's it for today's tutorial. Thank you for watching the video or by reading the PowerPoint. I suggest to have a further reading on Chopra's book because I'm sure that there are still some materials that I still didn't cover in this tutorial. And if you have any questions, you can ask me through personal chat or group chat. Thank you.